recently on NBC News there was a series of other reports. I've done one on NBC from July. They were talking about the fact that the upcoming total solar eclipse is going to be pretty much pushed on the idea that it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The upcoming, next 10 years it'll happen again. But what they said in July was that it was going to be a half-price fare gimmick for all the airlines. And anyway, I've discussed it on that other video, but what this one deals with is a series of stories they did. And the first one is about this potential for them to microchip people. And though it is one company doing this, it really is the New World Order agenda that everybody be microchipped. Because if you can be microchipped, then all of the information about yourself will be stored. Now, they're not microchipping these people where the Bible says it'll be, on your forehead or on your hand. They're doing it in this little flip of skin between your index finger and your thumb. And anyway, it's not supposed to just be an identifier of the employee. It's also supposed to keep other private information about you on there too. And they say it's supposed to be much more secure, keeping your information confidential. But this is only the beginning, folks. Once they start doing this to people and they start saying it's mandatory now, it's not voluntary anymore, then the next step of it's going to be them saying to the American people, since we have the technology and it's not so hard to grasp why it's important for us to do this, they're going to make it, it's sort of like you don't take the chip, you'll go to jail because you're not willing to protect yourself, or the fact that you're compromising not only yourself but other people. This is their rationale. They keep pushing on people even today that it's about you as an individual accepting a global government mandate of submission, because they're going to say it's for your benefit, it's for your protection that you do this. And funny as it is, when NBC News aired this story, there was nothing mentioned about what the Bible says about the fact that people in the end times would be required to take a mark or some kind of an identification that would be on your body, so that then it could be identified as you in a form other than like something written down or something that you had to show proof of. And the microchip is the one technology that now only has existed in the last 20 years. And now it's come to total fruition where they're saying it's perfected, we can force people to take it because it really is in your best interest to do this, because long term people are going to continue to hack into the government's information about you. And in other words, taking a mark is to keep you safe, but it's also the most obviously foolproof way of them saying this maintains safety about yourself and your identification of who you are. And that's the only proof most people even want today. And nobody even brought up or even asked NBC after they did that story, why didn't you mention the fact that the Bible says microchipping would be a requirement in the end times? The Antichrist will use that as a way to validate your status within the New World Order, because now you've accepted him, you've accepted his mark, now you can buy and sell. That's another very important thing about the microchip. The Bible says you won't be able to buy or sell without that chip. And how else can you do that securely except that it has to be something electronic? They can identify that it's you. A mark could be counterfeited, a mark could be, it's a limited way of identification. A chip has all the information in it, so that means once it's in your body, it's on you, it can't be compromised, because yeah, there are hackers who can do stuff similar to that where they can scan your credit card But I think a microchip would be a lot harder for them to do that. Before I go to the next story, let me mention one other thing about the microchip story. They mentioned that beyond everything else you can do, they also can track you as a person with that microchip. It's sort of like what they're already doing with animals. The animals are chipped. This way they claim, oh well, this way if the animal is lost, we can track it using the global positioning system, and then your animal can be recovered and returned to you. That is the philosophy they take about now small children. If a child gets lost or somebody abducts them, and if you microchip them, they'll be able to identify where they are, and then you'll be able to get your child back. And that's true even if the kid is killed, they can still find where the body is, and then the child can be returned and buried. And that is another point behind a microchip being so much more obvious than a mark, like a tattoo or something. You can't trace somebody with a mark. You can only trace somebody if it's got an electrical device that can be used to, like, send a transponder signal of some kind where GPS can identify it. And believe me, they can do that. They can trace you wherever you are with that chip. The next story was laughable because it had to do with this young girl who committed suicide. It's laughable, I say that, because the parents are suing the school system because she was being bullied constantly by classmates. Number one, what can a school do about student peer pressure between students? They're going to do that all the time. It's not a rare instance where one child is just kind of stigmatized or traumatized by this kind of peer pressure to the point where they commit suicide. It's not something that isn't becoming more and more obvious. It's like they would have to have psychological staff in every classroom in the entire nation to control how bullying can be identified. I mean, they're already saying stuff like that about homosexuals or transgenders. We have to train nurses how to cope and deal with children who choose their sex based on whatever fad it is or whatever psychological problem they may have. And what's laughable about this story is this. The parents told the newscaster they were bullying their daughter by texting them. The textings were like 25 text messages were coming in every hour, or they were coming in whatever number it is. Here is the point of it being laughable. If the parents had just taken the phone away from their daughter, she'd probably be alive, because the child couldn't have gotten those text messages from her classmates. The parents could have taken the phone, texted back every person sending this stuff and say, you won't be able to contact our daughter because we now have confiscated her phone and she can't use it. So if you're going to bully her, you're going to have to do it at school. But here's another way they could have protected their daughter from this kind of harassment. Got the names of all the students, turned it into the police. Police could have contacted their parents and said, this child is psychologically unstable, there's potential she could harm herself, and the police could have stopped it too. They could have gone to those parents and said, your kid is not allowed anymore. Put a restraining order on them, and then they could not have texted her anymore. So it's laughable because the school system is not supposed to be the government monitoring you, controlling you. They're there to teach you, and that's it. Anything beyond and outside that scope, it's up to the parent to do that, because you're the parent, it's your responsibility, you're the child's guardian. You are responsible for what happens to your child. And the parents, obviously, I call them brainwashed, because society says they totally depend on the government to do everything for them. They don't take the responsibility to say, if my child's going to be happy and they're going to be normal, it has to start in the home. The parent has to take that responsibility. And in this case, with this child committing suicide, they brought out this other laughable point. I have to mention this. They say that girls are much more prone to commit suicide than boys. Why is that laughable? because society pushes girls and women in every aspect of social media, television, movies, everything a kid sees. It is all pushed and projected towards one gender, girls. That is the underlying factor of why young girls like this girl committed suicide. She was so traumatized by this pressure she's under as a girl to excel in every aspect above and beyond even a boy, because of what they see on television, what they hear on the internet, what they see in the movie theater. And you know what? I don't feel sorry for any girl in this country, because the parent should say, I'm not going to allow this kind of constant absorption to get into my kid's brain, so I'm going to shut off the TV, I'm going to cut off the internet, and I'm going to control how much of it the child can get. Instead, parents have this philosophy, the government's going to take care of my kid from the cradle on, so they don't take the responsibility as a parent to stop it from getting any further than it already goes. And I can refer you to 500 or 600 other videos I've done on this subject about this push about a girl being all important about life itself. And in 20 years' time, you've gone from a boy was up here, and now he's down here. The girl is up here. So it's like there's such a gap now between the genders. The girl is up here. She's the one now who is pushed to exceed a boy's potential. And the boy is suppressed because women believe that it's no longer about that a boy should have equal comparative respect within society. It's no longer like that. That's why you don't see boys on television, you don't see them on commercials, you don't see them in film. Flip side, if you look at film from just 20 years ago in the 90s, totally the opposite. Boys were still pushed above and beyond a girl, because the boy has always been, whether you say stereotypically or not, that's how God created humankind. Mankind, man himself, was supposed to be the dominant figure in a family relationship. Key word, family. Nobody has a family unit anymore, because most women say, I can be a single parent, I can still love my kid, and we don't have to have the bum called a father in the equation. That philosophy, folks, is why suicides are out of control, why they don't have an identity anymore as children. So they have to feel this pressure of saying, well, maybe I should be this other gender and not who I was born to be. In other words, everything now is totally upside down because society can't see what's been going on. They can't see what Obama was pushing for 8 years. He kept saying, you can't do it without the government. I'm going to give you everything you want. He said that over and over again. He said, you let me control your life and I'll give you everything you want. And now 8 years later, those same potheads are waking up and realizing we don't have it anymore because Obama's gone. But here's the difference. Now you're starting to see his machine that he created for 8 years is still running in the background. That's the Socialist Democrats. They're still saying to America, we haven't gone anywhere. I'm talking Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Nancy Pelosi, Charlie Schumer. All these are people who Obama put in. And he said when he left at the end of his second term, y'all got to continue the wheels moving, because eventually I'll be able to come back into it and I'll take back over again. But for now, y'all have to keep the hate, the incitement going against those things that were normal in society. Now they're going after Confederate war memorials. They're starting to condemn people who have differences of opinion. other than what I call the Illuminati viewpoint, which is New World Order agendas. That is, conformity means everybody has to accept what one group says in society. Blacks are now telling society, this is how it's going to be, this is the NAACP's viewpoint about everything. And it's not about individual freedom anymore. It's not about your choice as a person to decide what you want to have on your car, in your home, what you want to believe. It's the New World Order is saying, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't think that, because it isn't for the good of the global government that's already in place, and it's building bigger and bigger every day. And society is saying in America, we want that. That's why you've got Black Lives Matter and these other groups who are totally phased out of the equation about the KKK, the white nationalists, and all these other people who were there fighting. Do you hear them say anything about who were the opposing group who were there fighting the neo-Nazis, the KKK? No, they don't say that because they don't want you to know who is both sides. They want to show you one side. They're saying, we don't want this life anymore. We don't want y'all to have this kind of existence anymore as a society. So now they're telling you, you're not going to hear about it from both sides. You're going to hear what we want you to hear about a story. The media is so perfect at that because people can't find out information except watching television. The radio is still totally submissive to what television does, except that the talk show hosts still have some opportunity to give real facts. But once the local news comes on, you can hear that same crapola that the Socialist Democrats tell the media on television and cable all the time. This is the standard play. This is how to talk about it. That's it. Don't speak of anything else except that. How more obvious is it to tell it to you in those plain terms? Society is coming to a head where New World Order is going to cut off everybody who has individuality, and they're going to say you can't speak anymore, you can't think anymore, except for what the Bilderberg group, what the Illuminati, what the New World Order tells you to do. Don't believe it? It's happening. And the media is showing us over and over again, this is what they want us to tell you. This is what we are allowed to show you about a story. You're not going to hear about the Black Lives Matter group being the ones with clubs hitting. Trump did. Tried to. What did they say to him? Oh, you're an idiot. In other words, they denounced it because what he was saying was true, but they don't have an answer for him of why was Black Lives Matter as responsible for those acts of violence. It wasn't the neo-Nazis doing it against that other group by themselves. It was both of them clashing at each other. That's why the socialist government is saying over and over again, we can't show you the whole thing because we have to keep people incited to get rid of what was normal, what was the way America worked before. And now they won't let us even be that way anymore. It's just getting worse. It's getting worse every single day. And, boy, next week is that global eclipse, the world solar eclipse. I don't know what's going to happen. September 23rd is coming up right soon after that. I think God is about to tell this whole world, He's had it. It's enough. He's going to tell this world, He's saying, I am sick of it. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. What do you think He's going to do to America? We're living the heinous way we are. Do you think He's going to sit by and not say something or do something? Yeah, He's going to do something. It may not be on August 21st. It may not be September 23rd, but it's coming. Next year is the 70th anniversary of the creation of Israel. So we'll find out.
Go. I say go away. You bother me.